Welcome to this Sunday night and to a little bit more painting from my side. A week or so ago I started painting on Papa Loco from the Malifaux game. It's a miniature game. I'll get into that in a little bit. And this is where we left off. He's got a nice straitjacket, he's got a gun pointed at his own head, and he's got dynamite strapped to his body in various locations. So we need to touch up a little bit on getting some shading done, I think. I seem to recall that I did shade his pants, but at the same time they don't exactly feel like they're that well made. But we need to touch up a few things, and I'm basically going for a table ready for him. So I'm probably not. I maybe be dry brushing the straitjacket a little bit just to give it that extra bit of contrast. I'll be doing something with his face, because even though I like the way the shadows fall on his face, it looks really sinister. He looks a little bit, doesn't show up that well. Hello, Rowan. Doesn't show up that well on video, but it's a really odd color. I can't really say what it is. I don't have the right words for it. It's kind of sort of bronze, yellowish thingy. His face color. So I need a little bit of highlight, maybe some really dark shading on that as well. But I think we'll begin with his boots that need a little bit of shading. Yeah, where do we go? His boots are sort of brownish, standard brown. So we should go in deep into. Where do we go? Do we go strong? Do we go all the way to dark? Or do we just do null oil? I've never done that on. I also apologize for the noise it makes when I put my painting bottles back into my rack. It's right next to the microphone. I didn't have time today to move my other microphone. I have one that's arm mounted that I need to move here to my desk as well. And yeah, one is from Malifaux. If you had stuck around the last time Andreas and I played, you would have been able to see just how much of a pain in the ass he can be with his dynamite. But anyway, I think we will go try to do some high contrast, really. Since I want it to be visible, all the small bits and pieces should be visible. Let's see if I manage to knock over another paint bottle this time. And we'll use my trusty old army painter regiment. Hey Modifien, glad you could make it. Also, if you will excuse me for just a second, I will go find my glass, the glasses that I use for water, for rinsing all my brushes and stuff like that. I will be back in a jiffy. Okay, so now we have. Actually, I use two different glasses. One here, the large one, I just use for just getting most of the paint out of the brush, and that's going to be totally dirty. And then I use the other one to sort of finalize cleaning the brush. And Modifian, welcome aboard. Shiny butt floss. I am sure I don't want to know what that is. Also, can I maybe do this? Does that even help? That does not even help. So anyway, what are you people up to? Have you had a wonderful weekend? Are you still having a wonderful weekend? Have you played any awesome games? Have you been hanging out with family and friends? Getting shit-faced drunk? Oh, I am... Oh! So you have your test for learning Danish tomorrow. Okay, so now I want you to go home and practice. No, I know you have. But you know you're gonna have to say all the normal fancy things that us Danes like to throw at people learning Danish, like rødgrød med fløde and all those things. Stegt flæsk og persillesauce is also one of the trickier ones, but I am sure you will do just fine. You're watching golf tournament while raiding England's monasteries in Assassin's Creed. I thought that was the Vikings. I mean, yeah, the Vikings were good at killing, but they weren't really assassins though. Were they? They probably were. They've added the entire Assassin's Creed guild thingy into the Viking thingy. I think that would kind of make me a little bit sad, because it's, from what I understand, that's not how it happened. But again, it's a game, it's a computer game. They are free to tell whatever story they want to tell. That's super cool. Yeah, so Viking sitting... Oh, I'm drifting off camera here. So yeah. Q. Okay, so... Shade the boots, damn you. More shade. But speaking of golf, I actually, for the first time in something like 4 years, I went out and played some disc golf today. For those who don't know what that is, it is basically a game, sports, or whatever you want to call it, where you throw plastic around in nature. It makes as much sense as the last two, ancient Egypt and Greece. Yeah. Yeah, this. Oh, you've tried disc golf. We should go sometime. I went up to Kokkedal. Karlebo, so it's also called, which is a really, really nice 18-hole course. I did terrible. Not throwing a disc in 4 years. I did allow myself a mulligan, meaning that I allowed myself to... Oh, watch me glue my hands together. Does it still say that? I should probably change that. And welcome, Bill. No, we were talking about disc golf, and that I went playing the old. Roskilde. That's also a really good one. Although I have lost several discs to that lake. That's so annoying when it ends up out in the middle of the lake with a huge splash, and you just know there's absolutely nothing you can do. However, I don't know if you know this, but there are actually, once in a while, a local divers club, or amateur divers club, actually go out into the lake and dive around and fish out as many discs as they can, which I think is super awesome. I didn't get my discs because it was too long to respond. They actually called me at some point and sent a text message because I write my name and phone number inside the discs. Yeah, you know what? We'll get to some glue at some point. Hey, AJ. Oh, have fun at work, both of you. Thanks for showing up and lurking. I appreciate it. So yeah. Yeah, it's a really nice arrangement they have with the divers. So yeah, let's get some color on this guy's, well, not his ass, we covered that last time. Although I know Modifian would prefer us painting his ass again. Oh cool, just say when, how about 1 o'clock today? Well, 1 o'clock today, which was about 6 hours ago in Coggedale. So we just need a time machine. You have a time machine. Wow. Oh, so you're not this Wohan, you're Wohan from the future. That's cool. That's pretty neat. Can you at all see what I'm doing? Now I'm still getting acquainted with what angle to hold the miniature in, so you can see it, as well as me being able to actually hit the spots I need to hit. Oh, you just use it. Oh wow, that is amazing. So that's really cool. No, but the Coggedale course, it's 18 holes. I did a measly plus 15 over par, which is not good. But I did do a single birdie on one of the long holes, which means that, well, that doesn't mean anything. Maybe just that I got lucky. But the reason I got it is that I seem to have gotten a lot more distance over the 4 years where I didn't play, which I think is kind of fun and strange. But people always say that you get better in your breaks. So there must be something to that. So yeah, this paint is going all over the place. I don't care. I just want him, basically just want him table ready. I'll fix it up in a bit. So no, but on the way back, where you can see the figure just fine, the lamps hide the beard. Yeah, but angles and all that, I need to figure out what I'm gonna do with the face cam and my setup and all those things. But I'm way too busy and sometimes unfocused to actually do this when I'm not preparing for an actual stream. So it will happen. One day it will. I promise you that. So that is very red. It looks a lot more shiny on camera than it actually is. It dries up fairly matte. This brand, it's the scale color paints that I've played around with earlier, and I kind of like them. Problem is that if I kind of like something, then I feel like I should go out and get some more of their paints, and I think that would not be a good idea, really, because I have so many paints and I never use them. Oh, the dynamite sticks. We'll be painting the dynamite sticks as well today. So no, but yeah, the disc golf course, it's 18 holes, and it's by far the most hilly, if that's a word, one I've played on. The third hole is essentially just you more or less looking at a wall of grass going straight up. And with the weather we've been having lately with lots of rain, you can imagine just exactly how slippery and muddy such a slope is going to get. So it is actually a problem crawling up. One thing is actually throwing the disc up a hill. That is difficult enough. But then having to climb up afterwards, that's also really, really rough. And I even did a cold start, by which I mean that I did not do any training throws or anything like that. I just went straight for my first drive, and because that went completely haywire, some of the other people who were looking just gave me the good advice that I could just take a mulligan on the first throw. So I actually discarded my first throw. But I think that makes sense after a 4-year break and all that. I didn't want to spend, an hour or two warming up and getting reacquainted with my discs, because I know that going through 18 holes is going to take several hours. So I was already pushing it a little bit with what I have the energy to. But in the end, doing plus 15 is not a good result in any way, but I am satisfied with the fact that I actually went there. I've been meaning to do that a few times in the last couple of months, but just never found the energy for it. And maybe it's just because winter is getting close, so I know that this may be the last weekend I can actually go there. But yeah, I don't know. I went, and that's it. And then on the way home, I found out that one of the neighboring towns out here, a town called Vium, for those who know what that is, they've also installed a disc golf course quite recently. So I dropped by there and did 2 rounds, and it's a kind of a nice. It's a cute little course, but it's only 9 holes and they're really short, and it's in the middle of a public park that was had a lot of pedestrians and people on bicycles when I was there. So they've done a good job of actually placing each hole in a way that it doesn't interfere too much with people walking there. But even so, there are other people, and you need to be careful, because even though they are on a disc golf course, they may not really realize exactly what goes on. That's our responsibility. Light has to be a terrible tragedy. Yeah, Wohan, and Modivian, I know it's a tragedy for you, which reminds me that I spoke to your significant other, and since apparently you are in charge of the calendar, you will now be in charge of finding a day when you can and I can, so we can meet up, so I can see little Ellie again. And yes, fine, I'll see you two as well. So and by the way, you're not missing much in the beard department though. After being out, well, not in the sun, but out in the wind and just outside all day, and I didn't have time to take a bath and groom it properly. But that's a thing, I groom my beard. I didn't have time to do that properly, so yeah, you're not missing much there. That looks pretty decent. Now, a thing that I'm gonna try with the red parts that I seem to be done with. There's the strap going around his leg here. Don't do that with paint on the brush. Thanks, thanks, Modivian. No, but camera mishap. Beard grooming after a shower. You swoon. Yeah. You keep saying that. No, but this one here, this strap, is the one that goes around to the dynamite sticks. And that's going to be painted brown, not red, like the rest of it. But what I'm going to try with the red one is actually just giving it Nuln Oil, because Nuln Oil and red apparently works quite well together. But I will also need to do, as I said in the beginning, I need to do something about his face. And I need to, I think it actually needs some, where do we have it? We need some dark tone on this in special places. Let's just get a little of that. See if we can sort of do a selective shading on him. Like the eye sockets. That might be just a little bit much. I actually saw a video with Uncle Atom from Tabletop Minions that is specifically called "Why I Don't Draw Eyes Anymore." I think that was what it's called, but basically that was the concept, that he stopped painting eyes on his miniatures for Warhammer 40k, which is what he's mainly playing. And said the reason is that not painting them, and I've ranted about this in the past, I know, I'm sorry for bringing it up again, but the reason for that is that you usually do more damage painting bad eyes than you do by not painting them at all, which is a really interesting observation, and I agree completely with him. People can do amazing stuff dotting in the eyes. Yeah, you saw it as well, Rohan. I like Uncle Adam for two reasons. He's got this really nice, calm voice. That's just wonderful to listen to. Oh, that was way too much shade there. See, this is how you shouldn't do it. I'm giving you examples of all the things you shouldn't do when you're painting. A little more here. Maybe just touch up the hairline. No, but he said people doing miniature painters, real display pieces, Golden Demon Award quality stuff. They do amazing things with eyes. The rest of us, at best, we're going to make something that looks a little bit like googly eyes. At worst, it's going to make the miniatures look cross-eyed, and one eye looking up and to the right, and the other eye looking down to the left. And it's often people just draw in the whites, and then they dot in a black dot, which, if you look either at another person next to you or yourself in the mirror, that's not how eyes look. It's a little bit like when if you in school had looked at the old ancient Greece and looked at the pottery they did, where they drew eyes. There was a huge change when they switched from painting people in profile from the side like this, and they would not draw the eye as it actually is. They would draw the eye as it looks when you look straight at them. So you would have this eyeball at the side of the head, which looks really creepy. But then at some point, and I cannot remember which year, but they actually use it to distinguish between the time periods. They realized that it looks really weird, so they changed it, and now they do sort of this triangular eye instead. So that's progress. We have a strap that needs to be painted, and it needs to be painted not in this color, because that's the one I used for his hands. It should be a lighter color. So let's go up. I have not tried this one yet, but it's called Panzer Aces. Cannot be bad. Everything gets better with Panzer. So a little blob of that. So yeah, but the sad thing is I'm not entirely sure when I'll actually be playing Malifaux again next time. With things being, well, not fully shut down again. I mean, cafes are open and all that, but I'm trying to do the sensible thing at the moment and staying home and not going out to restaurants and cafes and all that, simply because I don't want to risk getting the coronavirus. I mean, it appears that we're pretty close to a vaccine, so I'd feel rather silly and stupid if I spend all December being sick, and then I could have gotten a vaccine in, I have no idea when it's going to come, but I'm going to say January anyway, because hey, wouldn't it be great if it did? So just this close and so on. Yeah, you know how it is, you know how it goes. But also, I really don't want to risk infecting other people. And one thing is the people that I'm meeting with, and I'm trying to do the only meet up with at most 10 different people in total. So my physical contact sphere or whatever is about 7 or 8 people last I counted. The majority of them being the role-playing group I'm in. I'm actually in 2 groups, but it's the same people, so that's fine. This dynamite stick is not being fine. Who cares? But going to the cafe, I would risk infecting other people at the cafe, maybe the bartenders, maybe other patrons, other people visiting, and I really would hate to be in a position where I was found to be positive and then going, oh right, so what did I do the last week? Well, I potentially infected about 20 people. I don't want to be in that position. I don't want to be that guy. That's another Uncle Adam video. Go watch it. If you ever plan, if you hope that they will be able to play in the cafe or game stores or so on again, go watch his video about not being that guy. And by that he talks about, in that video he talks about, don't be the idiot who insists on following every single little bit of rule. Yeah, Vaughn, you got the cafe on hold. That makes, to me it makes perfect sense. I mean, and you're visiting your parents as well. That's an extra incentive to stay away from places where you could potentially pick it up from complete strangers. I mean, if going out to and visiting other people and playing games with them in their home, I would not have a problem with that. But going to a cafe, as I said, there's just way too many other people, and I cannot control what they're doing, and they cannot control what I'm doing, and that, to me, it seems silly. We spent the past 8 months trying to be sensible about all of this and trying to make it work. Then why risk it just because we feel entitled to going out and having a little bit of fun? Why not just find other ways to have fun? Like painting miniatures, playing disc golf, playing Among Us, or, as I found out during this week, I've been meaning to find a good computer game that would keep me occupied and wouldn't feel too grindy, or at least be grindy in new and different ways. And then I came across Warhammer Vermintide, the second one to be specific, and I have had a blast playing it. In one of my first runs with the elf, I managed to get almost 600 kills in about half an hour. So that's a kill every 3 seconds. That was pretty intense and fun. So much fun. So yeah, all of this should be a little bit nitty gritty, so that's fine. The dynamite stick should be more red. So let's touch that up. Oh yeah, kills. Yes, Vaughn, that's one of the new things we've instituted as rules, as gurus in there. I don't know if you saw the memo, but we are now allowed to kill people in the cafe if we believe they're either standing too close or all that. I mean, our Prime Minister said it in a press meeting, so it must be true. I should probably make a disclaimer saying that it is, of course, not true. It would be complete silly and stupid to enforce that. But hey, looking at how governments have been run lately in all parts of the world, is it really that big a stretch of the imagination that someone would do this eventually? Yeah, chainsaw. Chainsaws in cafes sound like a concept. I mean, they have cat cafes. Why not have chainsaw cafes? I think it makes perfect sense. So go ahead and do that. Also, it's been nice knowing you. I don't expect to ever see you again if you do. You will probably be locked up somewhere safe. Well, you won't be safe, but the rest of us will be. And for a really long time. Or at least until you decide to just walk out the front door, because that seems to be how people escape from jail in Denmark. Then you get 5 minutes of free time, and it's over. I'm sorry about not tilting this correctly, in a way so you can see. Probably going to do it upside down anyway to get to the fiddly parts in here. But yeah, I mean, this is only possible for me because I have the magnifying lamp now. Otherwise I wouldn't even have attempted to make the small, these are the, I'm talking about the 2 small sticks of dynamite on his belt, on his boot. And even though it's not a lot, I mean, it's just 2 red lines, but just having something that breaks the color just a little bit is always so nice on a miniature, because it just adds that extra bit of detail. I also need to freshen up a little bit where I made a mistake over here. It's probably gonna be covered by the shade wash, but that seems fine. And a little bit there. That'll have to do. I'm trying to teach myself to spend less time on fiddly details that I'm not gonna be, I'm not ever gonna be completely satisfied with them anyway, so why spend that much time doing them? What do we want now? Now we want to wash some of this. I mean, his face got a lot more creepy from this. And you'll move 200 meters, can't be that big of a change, and 3 hot meals a day. Oh, so right, you live out right next to one of the jails. I was about to say cool, but I'm not entirely sure it is. So I will leave it at that. But what should I do about his face now that I've given it some shade? Maybe what I'll do is I'll just do a really aggressive highlight to make it a lot more, hopefully stand out a lot more. I actually saw one of the best examples of how you should really paint your miniatures if you're not doing, display work and all that. Just doing table ready. You should look at what stage actors, theater stage actors do with their makeup, because quite often it's going to be extremely crude. It's not going to be fully shaded. It's just going to be maybe 2 or 3 different shades of gray. Definitely not 50, and then they'll just apply it in huge blobs or lines, a bit like what I'm going to do here. I've just painted his forehead. I'm going to paint the bridge of the nose, gets a little bit more, and then the top of his cheeks here. And then when you look at him from afar, I'm going to do it a little bit more visible here, because I don't want him to be actual bronze, a yellowy bronze in his flesh. It just looks wrong. I mean, even though he's supposed to be from Mexico or whatever Mexico-ish country he's from. Again, remember, this is a fantasy setting. There are no fixed rules about anything here. But I just felt it was off. It didn't even look like people from Latin America or anything like that. It just looked off in every way possible. So fixing it up a little bit. No, but stage action, huge blobs of makeup, because they're not being, they're not meeting the audience, at 2 meters distance, or even 1 meter, or 5 meters. There's have to, the shading of their face and has to be visible from the back row as well. And you don't get that if you do all the really intricate, you know, like what's it called, shady eyes, whatever, all the different makeup stuff that cool makeup artists do. You don't see that from, you know, 50, maybe 100 meters away. What you see is the overall large blobs of paint. So that's what I'm kind of trying to do here. Just shining him up a little bit, lightening his face. See, his left cheek is not quite there yet. This is a completely different way for me to do this. Yes, paint for the balcony. That is one of the terms they use. That's absolutely true. And it's the same when painting table-ready miniatures. It doesn't have to look good up close, it just has to be good when it's standing on the table and you're looking at it from about an arm's length away. And this is true for, you know, if you're painting, like I know you are, Wohan, if you're painting your Warhammer army, if you want it to look nice, paint it, by all means, paint it as nice as you possibly can. But I know we've talked about this. If you just want to get some paint on your miniatures so they look cool when you're playing, don't overdo it. Don't spend 2 hours per model making the eyes just right. It really is a waste of time because no one's ever going to be looking at that single model when it's part of a unit of, I don't know, 20 archers or whatever. So that is one bit of advice for you today. Paint for the balcony. Get things ready, do the arm's length principle. Should look good at arm's length. It doesn't have to look good up close. And I am saying this while I am looking through a magnifying glass at a miniature that I am consciously painting poorly. That is really rough. But hey, if I'm looking at it here in the light, it actually looks, I don't know about you guys, but I am quite happy with that. I'm doing it, yeah, some of the characters. What evening? You can't tell me what to do with my time. I'll waste it if I want to. One glorious bastard and 19 fucking so. Okay. So, Modifian, what tangent did you just went off on? Because I'd like to follow you. It sounds fun. Yeah, and what you're saying, Bohan, is you're painting per importance. If it's an important piece, important miniature, like characters and so on, your commanders, all that, yep, details, because those are the miniatures that people will actually pick up and look at. But rank and file troops, seriously, I mean, even just giving, you know, one batch, just one, maybe, well, a few colors of, what's it called? Contrast paint is the word I'm looking for. Just doing a quick contrast paint job will get you really far. Or just doing a base coat and some shading, even without highlighting, you'll still get good results. Now, since Malifaux is a skirmish game, essentially all the miniatures are characters in that sense. So I want to do it a little bit better, but at the same time I'm still relearning how to paint because I haven't painted in many years. And even though I did some board game work over the past couple of years, I've not really done it sort of consistently, and I've been really bad at working on my techniques. I've basically just gone with what I learned back in the 90s, which was straight from the pot, that was Citadel paints back then, straight from the pot onto the miniature, do some wash, do some dry brushing, done. And especially doing highlights correctly, and by correctly I mean not just randomly slapping or dry brushing, but actually having some kind of method to the madness, saying I want to highlight this in this color and then going up through the different shades until you get the topmost one. That's actually difficult to me to do because I've never done it. You like pretty miniatures with a lot of detail. Yeah, balancing time again. Time is the issue. If I had to paint every single miniature, I wouldn't even be able to because I don't have the skills to do it. But if I tried to doing it, it would take me probably a few days of actual work per miniature. And I don't want to spend 4 weeks full time painting a single Malifaux crew. As much as I like that game, it is just not worth it. So, but yeah, he doesn't look good when you look up close, but I think at a distance, can we agree that he's kind of living up to his name, Papa Loco? I know he's not in focus. He should be now. Yeah, and again, if you feel like doing the details, do them. By all means, this is your hobby. Always use your time as you want to use it. No one can tell you what to do and how to do it. Yeah, ambition superseding your skills. One of the reasons I hadn't started painting this Malifaux crew in over a year by now was that I wanted to wait until I had painted other things, and so I could get it, just right, and improve my techniques and make a really good job of these guys here. But then I realized I am not painting anything else, so why not just do this strange thing to myself that I don't usually do, and just accept that these are not going to be painted perfectly. Now these are miniatures I really care about, and I want them to look good, but I don't want to spend 40 hours per miniature, which I could probably do if I had to go back, fix at least small mistakes here and there all the time. But no, I'm not doing that. I'm just accepting they're not going to be perfect, and that in a way I hope will make them perfect. Haha, so there. Silly pocket philosophy for a Sunday night. Make things perfect by making them not perfect. This may or may not apply to your life. Use the advice at your own peril. I'll just do a quick shade to tone down. See here, I'm doing it again. I've painted this leather strap, but now I'm I can just give it a little bit of shade, and it just, it's gonna look really nice. I'm gonna probably emphasize it just a little bit, but again, is it really that necessary to do this for that particular strap on this particular model? And I always see small things I can do. If I just did this, it might be a little better. If I just did that, it might be a little better. And just, yeah. Sorry, I'm ranting again. Anywho, I'm not really close to being done with him yet. I will do a little bit of cleanup because I messed up his pants with the red here. And while he doesn't mind getting blood on his pants, I'm sure he would not take it kindly when he realizes that I've spilled a bucket of red paint all over his pants. Because Papa Loco doesn't take shit from anybody. He deals out shit, and he deals out dynamite. He actually, in game, he's got this funky ability that allows him, it grants him immunity from explosions, essentially. Anything that has what's known as a mushroom effect, which is basically an area of effect ability, like dynamite. He just ignores it, or at least ignores the damage from it, which is kind of cool because that means that he has one of his melee attacks is running up to opponents, because melee attacks, and then just handing them a stick of dynamite, and the attack is called "Here, hold this." So imagine that you're a evil, scary, horrible, undead monster out to wreak havoc on the world and terrify all the humans you come across and all the other races that are there, like the goblins out in the wilderness and so on. And then this idiot runs straight up to you, hands you a huge and lit stick of dynamite, goes, "Here, hold this," and doesn't run away. He's just standing there right next to you. So what are you gonna do? And I think what usually happens is they blow up. And that's a fine thing for monsters to do. Just a quick shade down here. Oh, it actually shaded the boots in null oil. Let's do this even more. Maybe not that much. Fix that. So I don't know if I'm gonna be able to finish him today. I might not be able to do the base fully because I'd like to do a little texture paint on it, but we should be able to get somewhere at least. Now, regarding his hair, he's currently very white-haired, and I really like it that way. The more I look at it, the more I go, yeah, this guy is completely crazy. Of course his hair is, well, not a flame effect, but at least this simple, just straight black to white fade. Also, I just got a cramp in my leg. So I'll be painting standing for a little while and my voice will be strained. Sorry about that. So yeah, I get leg cramps once in a while, especially since I've actually been out exercising a little bit, walking. I actually walk quite a lot when we play disc golf. So there is that, and again, now I'm doing highlights on something that I didn't want to highlight. Yeah, position change. Now, I think what triggered the cramp here was actually that I'm sitting on a bar chair because my desk is high up, and I think it's actually looking pretty cool at the moment. But also I've been using my legs a little bit more than what I'm used to, and then the back of my thigh rested against the edge of the chair, which naturally triggers a cramp. So anyway, that was that. Then we need to get some. Now we have this one here. Again, this is from Scale Color. It's called thrash metal. All their metal colors are apparently named after metal music genres like thrash metal or heavy metal or stuff like that. But he's got a small hook down near his right foot that I haven't painted. I'm gonna do a different technique for that. So I'm gonna cheat. Also gonna get my chair out of the way. So I'm gonna cheat just a little bit with that and do a silver, very bright silver here. Oh, you see it here? It really is that bright. And thank you for saying that he looks awesome. I was aiming at frightening, fearful, nuts and so on, but knowing you, I think that is basically what you just said. No, but the technique I'm going to use here is I'm actually going to give it a really bright silver on top of white even, so it's going to be even brighter. And then I'm just going to shade it with Nuln Oil down to maybe a few times down to the shade or the color I want it to be. And again, steady hands, magnifying lamp. I can actually do this, and you cannot see what I'm doing. But I basically just painted the hook down there by his right foot. You have the urge to give him a hug. Modifian, whatever you do, don't give him a hug, he'll just give you a stick of dynamite. I thought I explained that. So anyway, that was that. I will do the same over here. There's a small belt buckle in here and just quickly just touch it up. Now, what I'm doing here is something that people say you shouldn't do on many levels. I'm actually using one of my really good brushes from Winsor Newton to paint metal colors, and some people will go completely bonkers if you say you're doing that, because they say that, oh, the small metal flakes will stay in the brush and will wear it down quicker and all that, and I am absolutely sure that they are completely correct in their assessment of that. But to be honest, I don't really care. I have a good brush, I'm going to use it. And I mean, you can go into the cost effectiveness of it, and it's not because I'm made of money in any way at all. But as I like to say, I do have an adult job. I do earn money. And with all the money we spend on miniatures and games and all that, then even the Winsor Newton brushes, they aren't really that expensive. One Winsor Newton brush cost about the same as 5 bottles of paint. And if we look over here in the back, that's a lot of brushes worth of paint here, and then we're not even looking at the Citadel, the contrast paints. I counted them. I have 17 or 18 of those, and 2 of those is almost the same as one brush from Winsor Newton. So if you bought at any time, if you at any point in your life bought 2 bottles of contrast paint, you could basically have bought a Winsor Newton brush instead. So that's kind of my point here. Yes, the brushes seem expensive, especially next to going to simple craft hobby stores like we have. Not Panduro, they're not especially cheap, but Søstrene Grene, which is a Danish store. You won't get the name, and it's just the sisters Grene, which means branches, but it doesn't make sense. You can get good brushes, and I use those brushes as well, and they cost like $1 a piece. I mean, I guess you would call it the dollar store in US terms, American terms. And you can use those. One of the pro painters I've watched quite a bit, Sam Lenz, he, as far as I understand, he only uses those. He just uses the really cheap brushes until they wear out. He just takes a new one, and he buys them bulk. Probably, I don't know from where. He buys them bulk. So if he buys like 10 at a time, because then he can just change whenever one wears out. He doesn't wait. He takes good care of them. He washes them with paint soap, brush soap, and all those things. I'm sure. But for his everyday work, doing it, and he's I think he's actually won Golden Demon Awards. So he's definitely a good painter, and he's really fun. He's kind of stoned heavy metal guy. He's really cool, good guy. I'd like to drink a beer with him. So Sam, if you ever watch this, I'll buy you a beer if we ever get the chance. Yeah. That's how silver paint tastes. No, but what I'm doing here, I'm just dotting in a little bit of semi-dry brushing, a little bit of silver on his bandolier, or whatever it's called, to make it look like there are actually bullets hanging down around his ass, as it would be. So yeah, that gives just that little bit of contrast. I mean, if you look at if you can I get him in focus? It doesn't look nice up close like that, but at a distance, it actually looks like he's now got some bullets for his gun, which he doesn't fire at his enemies. You don't go into certain grains, means the Carcassonne of Stars. Well, if it's the Carcassonne of Stars to you, I understand why you're not going there. in case you were wondering, Modifian, Wohan's, I think I can say that Carcassonne is your least favorite game. I don't think that would be entirely wrong. You could probably find a game you like less, but I think it would be hard pressed. So, Metalon, toddler painting supplies. That is true. It's not my idea, just a messenger. So just what with the Sustanagane thing or Carcassonne? Maybe I should get a helmet cam. Well, I don't wear a helmet at the moment, but you know what I mean? To be able to really sort of show what I'm looking at. But then of course you'd have all the issue with the magnifying glass and all those things. Probably wouldn't work. And let's just tone down the bullets just a little bit. That. And now I have a few fix-ups to do, and then I'm going to do the base. And while we wait for the shade and all that to dry, I'm going to talk a little bit about Citadel's texture paint. And I should have had an example ready for you. I don't have one nearby, unfortunately, no. But the texture paints are really cool. I think both are the bottom of the piles. Well, I think Sustanagane is a cheap store that allows me to buy brushes like these ones here for about 6 or 7 kronas a piece, which is what I use when I'm, for instance, contrast painting about 200 models in a short time. I don't want, there I get a little bit picky about which brushes I want to mess up. So what have we here? I want to say that he does not look good, but I actually think he does. And I also don't want to do the base until I can do the rim, and I can't really do the rim until I take him out of the holder. Well, it's not difficult to take him out of the holder, that's just doing like so. But when we'll get a little bit tricky doing the other things, so no point in painting the base, but I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I've never actually painted a miniature with this sort of rim around, this raised rim here. So I'm not entirely sure if I just paint all of it in a color, or if I'm going to make the rim a different color to sort of highlight him, emphasize him. I'm overthinking this, so chat. Roland writes, what I mean is, people are always pretending it's my fancy idea that Carcassonne is the worst board game ever, but I'm pretty sure that I'm purely objective in the description. Well, yes, because everyone's opinions on board games is always purely objective. So you can objectively say that Carcassonne is the worst card game ever, just like I can say that it is objectively the best board game ever. But nope. Yeah, but the thing is that I did a cenital highlight, so I would have to strip the paint here to be able to keep it completely black. So I'm probably just going to paint it over with black. I think that would make sense, because I don't want to give it a color. Because if I give it a color, then it seems like it's a team, and I'm not looking in that direction. Oh, now I know why I forgot. I need to I also apparently need to hit my camera all the time. Needs to be in a different position then. No, but I just need to touch up the dynamite sticks a little bit with red. Just so they are actually red on the tip. just a quick highlight. Just a quick red line here and a quick red line up here. Well, not that quick, not that big. Maybe like so. So yeah. No, but I mean, the thing about Carcassonne, and I've played Carcassonne a lot, and we have this mega Carcassonne project with Gojo going on. Well, it's very much on hold for lots of reasons. But I think it's it's to me, I've always used it as a kind of a gateway game for people, because even though it's not necessarily a good game when you know the alternatives, it is a good game for introducing people who only play Monopoly or Scrabble or stuff like that. And they can, for some reason, I've found that when I present it to people, they can relate to it. They can relate to the concept of putting down a piece, and of course it has to match, city to city and grass to grass, all those things. That makes perfect sense to people that these things should match. So it's not abstract, it's very sort of concrete and solid in that sense. Gateway to what to hell? No, that is a gateway, because once they realize that they can play this game, and yes, they can even be, they'll be frustrated, but they'll have some amount of fun with it that they don't get from playing another round of Monopoly. And then they'll go, oh, what other games are there? And then you can begin to introduce other things. And I don't know why, but Carcassonne just works for that purpose. I cannot give you any better description like that. That's just my experience. Pushing something like King Domino, which I know you'll at least play once in a while, so it can't be completely awful, in your objective opinion, of course. But King Domino, people go, oh, but that doesn't make sense, and why is there all of a sudden, are these two, they have to match or they don't have to match? And if they played a lot of Domino, yeah, then they get the point of the game. But if they haven't, then they just get confused, and that puts especially new players off these games. So yeah. Of course, better gateway games would be similar. Exactly, but Bowen, the thing is that people don't see that. People try to look for the theme, for instance. And yes, you can see you have your castle in the middle, but some people just don't see that, and they don't see all that. And I think some of us have become a little jaded in the sense that we like to play games, period. We'll play them no matter what. Doesn't have to be a theme, it could just be colored cubes. I'm talking to all the Eurogamers here, obviously. And there doesn't have to be a theme, that was the point I was coming from, and all that. And we'll still play the game, we'll still get enjoyment out of it. But to a lot of people, commoners, plebes, filthy little hobbitses, they don't see pick a tile, place a tile. They see, why should I place this tile? They go, this has to make sense to me. And placing this tile, but what you cannot, and I know it's also the same in Carcassonne, place a tile, pick up a tile, and so on, which is also hits the rinse repeat. But this is a tile with a city that connects to another city. For some reason, that just works, and I'm not kidding you. I've had this. I tried selling King Domino to some people at the cafe, and it just went, no, but that didn't sound interesting at all. Again, they didn't play Carcassonne then. I have to be honest and say that as well. But I can't remember what they used. Probably some even worse game than that. But yeah. So Carcassonne, will I play it? I don't mind playing it. It can be fun. I don't think there's much new in it. A lot of the expansions for it I found boring at best. Getting more tiles sometimes helps, but it also just makes the game drag on unnecessarily. It shouldn't be a long game, it should just be a short game. And yeah, I don't know. So a lot of people know it, but they are wrong. That is absolutely true, and we all know that Trump was just re-elected president. And all the people who are saying otherwise are also wrong. That is a true fact. It's a true Washington fact. So now we're in the boring, tedious, fixing all my mistakes. Wow, I made a lot of mistakes here. Why is this turning out to be a different color? Probably because of the shading. It's fine, it's fine. It'll all be fine. One thing I'm noticing here, I'm actually painting with a 000 brush to be able to actually hit the spots I want to hit with the paint. And the paint dries really quickly on it. Probably because there's not a lot of paint. I'm not used to that because I'm not used to using such a fine brush. But I can use it because I can actually see what I'm doing. And why am I painting the underside of a miniature that's meant to be looked at from the top? That is, my friends, because I cannot take my own advice. So always listen to what I say and never do what I do. Good. Just needs to dry a little bit, and we'll give it some final shading, and we're good. Majority is not always right. That is very much true. I even feel like I need to argue why Carcassonne's worst. I believe that it's that obvious. QED. So, yeah. Anywho. What shade did I use on him? Anyway, it will be... No, but I agree that Carcassonne is... I think I'm going to try to give myself the challenge of finding a game you will consider even worse than Carcassonne. It's going to be tough, I know that. But I have faith. Not faith in anyone or anything, just faith in general. Yeah. That almost did the trick. Just a little more black. Shading here and there and everywhere. And we are pretty close to done with all of that. So, I mean, I'm actually pretty pleased with the dynamite stick he's got on his right leg. I mean, they've got some definition to them that makes them stand out. So you can actually see that they're sticks and just of a sort of solid red mass. So, and it's that one better than I had expected. His gun holster, it's red. That's my color scheme for these are sandy colors and sort of khaki, and then throw in the matte red as something that stands out. I didn't use my color wheel. Color wheel is always good to have. Either have them handy or if you just do it in your mind, that also works. But we're over here with some of the brown khaki down here. So it's not contrast, it's sort of off to the side, and I don't have any of the blue stuff to balance it out. You know, sometimes you'll do a triangle. So it's really just an off color. but that is my attempt at just breaking all the rules and breaking all the stuff you are allowed to do and not allowed to do. So, anywho, on to the base, because the base will be fun. Thank you. Yeah, he looks cool. I'm quite pleased. I think doing a quick dry brush of the straight jacket would be really nice, but I cannot be bothered at the moment, just like I cannot be bothered silvering in the buckles here. I may return to him at some point, but as a miniature, if you look at him like that on the battlefield, he's gonna get a nice base. You can see him, he's defined, you can see the straight jacket, you can see that something is off about him. That's fine. That is his purpose, is to scare off the enemy. Now, what I'm going to do with the base is I'm going to paint the rocks, which is actually pieces of cork. I'm going to paint that. I'm going to paint them gray. Oh, almost knocked him over. And then give them some shading and some dry brushing to make them look rock-ish. So for that, we're going to need a gray here, just somber gray. If you're using Army Painter, it would be uniform gray. Yeah, dry brush in the back, but that's one of the reasons I use the brown wash, because straight jacks they start out white. So I actually did the staining with the brown shade. And then I wanted to do sort of a very light gray, not a true fully white one, but just bringing it back up so it gets lighter, but with the stains all over it, maybe do some detailed or selective staining as well. I have not used these paints in a really long time. They come out all wobbly and wonky. But let's get some matte medium in there as well, and see where that takes us. It's too clean. Yeah, so if you're talking about sort of extra dirty, nitty-gritty stuff, I'm not good at doing that. At some point I tried doing sort of the flicking technique to add blood spatter, and I realized that it just basically messed up everything. That was not as on him as on a different miniature. So I'll leave it for now, and again, I'm not going for perfection. I'm actually just going for trying out new things, and just a little bit of layering and highlighting I've done here is actually a lot more than I've been used to in the past. So I'm going for baby steps and getting miniatures painted. I can always revisit later on. So on to the rocks. Now after the rocks, I will paint the bottom of the base. I'll give it just a quick once over with some brown to give a solid base underneath, and then I'll use one of the Citadel texture paints, which are kind of they're so cool. They're the kind of paints that makes watching paint dry a fun exercise, and I kid you not, it is actually interesting to look at because as it dries up, they've added some kind of medium or thinner or whatever it is. I don't know about the chemistry part of it. I don't care. They've added something that when the paint dries up, it cracks and makes sort of the formations or patterns you'll see in a dry desert desert area, like the big flakes coming off and all that, and lines down everywhere. I think that is a really, really cool effect, and it makes making awesome looking bases so much more fun and easy. Back in the day when I learned to paint, what I did was I used kitty litter. Well, the gravel you use for the litter box for cats. I did that because I did not have a sandbox anywhere nearby, so I just used whatever I could find. And since I bought, they don't come in small bags, litter like that. So I had enough and just lasted forever. But it's fairly large grained in compared to the miniatures, so it was not ideal, but it gave the base some kind of texture and something you could dry brush and highlight and kind of sort of give the illusion that they were standing on grass or rubble or whatever you felt like painting, and has served me fine. It's an easy and simple way of doing it. Basically just glue it on, paint it down, paint it white, whatever, priming it, and then painting. Sorry, I need to focus a little bit here. Then painting it green, giving it a dark wash of some kind, and then dry brushing up to the lightest green you want. Done. That was bases 25 years ago for me. Now I like to do a little bit more detail like this. I don't have a good bit box anymore, so I don't have a lot of spare skulls and arms and legs and so on laying around. That would of course be optimal, because then you could just slap a skull or a stormtrooper helmet or whatever, and then you would go, but how did Papa Loco ever get his hands on a stormtrooper helmet? And I would be like, wouldn't you like to know? So I think we'll try to dot in different shaders on it, brown, red, yellow. Yeah, exactly. But I'm not good with that kind of artistic work, so it would just look randomly patterned. Rather, so a bit like trying to do a poor job at painting a flak jacket, camouflage jacket, rather than actually, making it look gritty and dirty like that. So there we go, that's the grey done. Yeah, I get the technique completely, and I agree that would be the way to do it. I just don't think I would be able to do it as quickly as I want to do. So time and so on. Well, I can. Some of it I would be able to make work, but it would take me a lot of time and a lot of tries, and every attempt puts more paint on the miniature, removes. Yeah, I've been a noob at this for the past 25 years, so I think I know a little bit about being a noob. Also, why am I getting this brush ready when I'm not going to use it? I'm going to use this other brush, but we need to do something for the base brownish color. It's just gonna be this one. And now, since I'll be putting the texture paint on to get the crackle effect, I'm not gonna do too good a job at the brown in the base. It's basically just so that the white doesn't show through, and to cover up the places where my wash and paints have seeped onto the bottom here. So like that. Just really quick. And when I say quick, it's not speed painting quick, because I'm no longer able to do that. I used to be able to paint fairly quickly, but these days I don't know, I just can't be bothered, I guess. So yeah, while doing that, and what time is it? Oh, it's only 20 past 8. It's still early. Still have time to finish all of this. This is usually the part where I at some point mess up something. So I would, paint a little bit of brown on, the light brown onto his boots. And then I would go in and then I would try to fix it and then I would reshade it, all those things. But since I'll be putting on the texture paint, it doesn't really matter that much because the texture paint fills up. You need to put in maybe somewhere between, I don't know, 0.5 millimeter to several millimeters. I know some people recommend and do use. The thicker you layer, the larger flakes I think you get. And yes, bases, I love the base. I mean, he looked cool before, but once the base is done, there's just something about it that makes the miniature look done, look finished, you know what I mean? See, there we have an example. I just painted a little bit up on one of the rocks, but it's not gonna matter because pretty soon all of this will be filled with texture paint. And we're gonna get some really nice sort of deserty ground for him to stand on. It's actually also the first time I've painted and used the cork pieces for the base, which is really, I think it's going to be a nice effect. So let's see how well I can pull it off. But first, when I heard about it, I had two thoughts. One of them being, but it's cork, how is it going to look like rocks? And then you realize that cork sort of falls in pieces, goes to pieces like in huge chunks, like what you have here. It looks very rocky. I don't want to watch the whole thing, but check out the custard arm in this battle report at about 9:20. I will try to find that later on, or please send it to me in a direct message. That's probably going to be easier for me to find instead of the chat stream. And I will do the inside as well. Wow, that did not go well. What happened there? No, but the cork pieces, they look really nice, and with a bit of shade and dry brush, it is going to look even better. I'm gonna figure out if I just maybe sand off the paint on the edge of the miniature. That would be one way of doing it. That would of course leave, wouldn't retain the sort of shininess of the base. That seems like a technique that should be tested elsewhere. I am sorry once again. I will try to keep him in view. Yeah, I could paint black over it. I was just going when you said leaving it black plastic. That would actually be a really sort of nice way of finishing it, because then it just looks cleaner. You can see that it hasn't been painted. But then I would have to strip the paint. So, but I guess I'm just gonna go black paint on it, which also means that I don't have to be that careful about not spilling over, because I'll be painting over it. And because of the way the edge is, it's gonna be a really simple job with the black. So, I think that will guess that will have to do. And again, I'm totally nitpicking everything here. But anyway, Rohan, when you're using the texture paints, how much do you actually fill in? I mean, are we talking like several millimeters, or are we talking just a thin layer? Okay, if you suffer from seasickness, close your eyes. I'm gonna try to readjust the camera a little bit here. How's that? Isn't that, I think that's a little better, but then my hand is probably gonna get in the way. But anyway, it will have to do, and we will do the shade. Should it be? Are we really going all the way down to null oil again for the rocks? I think so. Just a fairly thick layer, but I've only tried the once on my acolytes. I'm not totally satisfied with the result. I have some miniatures somewhere. I have some miniatures right here. Let me just close the lid on this one, because I can't dig out an example of what I'm going to do. There we go. This is basically the effect I'm going to go for. And that was a fairly thick layer as well. And this one, not the best example I've seen of it, also because I don't have any other things on the base than just a crackling paint. I actually prefer, adding in tufts of grass or other things like that. But for now, this will have to do. We'll just wash it down with null oil, shake the camera. We will just, this mess I'll need to fix, because that was definitely the wrong color, too high up. Just a quick touch up here as well. So yeah. Now, what most people are not realizing here, and I can reveal this because we have so many people listening, is that Rohan is actually just myself chatting, so it looks like someone's acting. Sometimes when I'm starting the streams, it feels like it feels really weird, because it says 0 viewers, and I still do an introduction and say hello and welcome to this Sunday night of miniature painting or whatever. I haven't found my motto or stick or whatever. But I don't care. We will do the non-oil thing. This really needs to be a heavy, thick layer to get all the little cracks in. No, not down on the brown. And then after that, we'll do, once it's dried, we'll do the dry brush. And it usually comes out quite nicely. Too much. We do need thick layers, but we don't need it to pool as much as it's doing here. There we go. Now I need to move the paint jar a little bit back. The paint pot. I think they're called pots. The nice thing about working with shades is that even if you do get a little bit too much on, you actually have quite a lot of time for just soaking it up. Just wipe off the brush real quick, and you can work it around a little bit. It will give some coloring, of course, but you can remove the large pools, so you don't get like, as I basically had not a pool but an ocean in the middle here, because that's where all the shading, the shade goes. This thing called gravity. But then you can just, take a slightly dry brush, just wipe off the worst of the shade that's on it. You can just, like here, just soak it up again. Yeah. I need more lights, I think. Because I can see that after moving the camera, it got very dark. I mean, even though this is a fully lit model, so there might be some white balancing on the camera setting as well. My life is really hard. You can hear that. I have so many hard decisions and tough problems. So let's see what we have here. What are you saying in chat? That's true, there's the beauty. Spill secrets to the chat, very true, but should be kept in mind. Now I'm having an existential crisis. Am I really just one of Skjern's split personalities? How can I know for sure? But that's the thing, you cannot know. You are just a figment of my imagination, or maybe you're not. And you will never know that, and it will keep you up at night. But what's worse is it will also keep Modifian up at night, because Modifian is obviously also a figment of my imagination. So are you the same figment, or are you different figments? That remains to be seen. So that's it for the black. And I think what I will do here is I will actually cheat a little bit and put in the texture paint now. And while it dries, I can just briefly dry brush the rocks. Now, I've tried a few times to use makeup brushes like this one here for dry brushing, but I honestly don't think I can get a brush this large down on the rocks without hitting the entire model. So I'm just gonna use whatever. I have this very battered old army painter dry brush. Probably won't work. I've tried, fully rinsing it, not using turpentine or anything like that, but it's more or less dead. But that was for later. Now we need the texture, and the texture we also have the Martian Iron Earth. I think that's going to be too red, so we're going to go with Agrellan Earth. Shake your paint. I've actually ordered an ink shaker, which is the kind of ink shakers that tattoo artists seem to use. I don't know when it's gonna get here, because it's from eBay somewhere, but it will get here at some point. So now we're applying the texture paint. And for now I'm just sort of getting it on there without getting it on the miniature itself, or at least not too much on the miniature. And then I can always scoop it around a little bit with a finer tool afterwards. The main thing is that this sort of thingy I have here, I don't know what the right term for it would be. I cannot get it in, on the inside of his foot here. It's way too thick for that. Plus the texture paint is also, I need to apply it in a fairly thick coat for it to work. And here we go. Now I've got some of it on his boot. I'll remove it in a little bit. And I'll just keep on working around the miniature. Getting a little bit extra in here. And we just wipe off the edge as well once we're done. I mean, just painting the rocks and the base already does a lot to the miniature. Having any kind of decoration around the miniature, as I said, Rohan, it just makes it pop. I think this is going to give me some nice big cracks. We won't be able to see that tonight because it takes, I think, a couple of hours to dry off completely. I usually leave them overnight at least, which is why it's often the last thing I do on a miniature. But since I want to both show, applying this and doing the dry brushing, I didn't just want to sit around waiting for the black shade on the rocks to dry without doing anything. Yeah, that went surprisingly well. So yeah, we now have it a decent layer, more or less all around. Let's rinse that off. Smaller cut off old brushes, that's a really good idea. I will do that with some of the Søstrene. I'm about to say pencils, but I mean brushes. But yeah, you know why I'm saying you all know why I'm saying pencil and not brush. Can I work this in here? Gently scooping it in. No, seriously, I need to cheat and I need to use a small brush for the last bit. And fortunately, I have one of these. It's not a brush I really use for anything else. It's from Penduro. For a birthday some years ago, some of my friends saw that I had put in specific brushes on my wish list. And what they did was lovely people. They went out and got me some different brushes in some different sizes at what I needed. So I never got around to. I didn't have the heart to tell them, and I'm pretty sure they're not watching this. But I just never got around to exchanging the brushes, because I figured you can always use them for something, and here I'll be using it for sort of precision texture painting. I use the word precision loosely. So any of the texture paint that spills onto the rocks are now considered to be dirt that is just clinging to the rocks. That seems like the perfect explanation for that. Now, let me just give this a quick wipe just to get the worst of it off for when we're painting it black. I should paint it black tonight as well. Actually, a few years ago, I did some experiments on bases again, where I put on some of the texture paint here, and then I spray painted, airbrushed over it with, what was it? I think it was just black, really thin down black paint or black ink, and then it just turned into this awesome lava effect. I'd drawn some different red and yellow, orange areas underneath it to make it look. Oh, sorry about that. To make it look, what's the word? A bit like sort of different colored fire underneath. But when it cracked up, the black I had airbrushed on top of it cracked as well, which means that it turned into these sort of black slabs of sort of dried or hardened lava on top, magma, yeah, and then the magma underneath. It looked wonderful. Problem is that using the airbrush means that I would not be able to do it here because my airbrushing skills are so poor that I cannot. I don't have enough precision to really do this. You know, with the airbrush, I would just hit the entire model, and that ruins the effect. So I tried working with, putting in the black ink directly into the texture paint, and that didn't give the same effect. It wasn't what I needed and wanted to do. But I'll try again at some point. Now for this first layer of dry brushing, I'm probably going to go at it pretty harsh. I will not do that through the magnifying glass. So it can go up here and light, and you can see the beard. And then you can't see the miniature. So yeah. You can see, now you can't because the light is all off. Let's put the light over there. Maybe you can see it a little bit better. I mean, you get a lot more sort of texture or shading, highlighting, because that's basically, we're doing shading and highlighting here. Let's just call it what it is. Let's call that what it was, me being clumsy. Basically, we just want to get those ridges shaded up without dipping it into the texture paint. I'm actually beginning to regret applying the texture paint already, but you won't be able to remove it. That wouldn't make sense. Now this is one part where working from home does have advantages. The whole sort of wiping off for dry brushing, wiping it off on my fingers here. I've done, made the mistake or whatever a few times of going into work the next day without fully rinsing my hands after painting, and especially after airbrushing, that some people react slightly odd to the tip of your finger being white. I mean, if it had only been the nails, some people might just have accepted the fact that, yeah, okay, so maybe he wears nail polish, whatever. We've seen worse things, or stranger things, whatever. That's the world is. I mean, if he wants to wear nail polish, fine. But when you have your entire finger painted, that actually gives, people notice that and they go, wait, what? Disappoint the Macho Club? Well, I don't care about the Macho Club. I don't think I ever was in it, so that's pretty easy. But it is fun to tease the people who are in the macho club. It's so much fun. I think those people are mainly just very insecure about who they are. Try brushing all night. And yeah, it's almost 9 o'clock. I try to keep the streams at about 2 hours because it seems like it's a nice enough period of time that I can actually do some stuff. As you can see, I'm not the fastest painter. I've said that often enough. That's not to put myself down. It's just I'm not. Period. But I can actually get some work done. I mean, I painted this here now in 2-hour sessions. That means I've spent about 4 hours on him, minus the time I've been sidetracked talking about other things and showing things and so on. I think that's for me that's a nice enough amount of time to spend on these character miniatures here. I know I'm just talking about getting them table ready and blah blah blah, but yeah. But it's spending 4 hours. I mean, I've seen in one of the Facebook groups I'm in, Papskubber Split Mailing. Again, Danish name, can't translate it. People will say, paint a miniature to this quality and go, oh, I only spent 15 minutes on it. And I go, how is that humanly possible? Doing this in 15 minutes. And then I realized at some point that some people are only counting the actual, painting time. So they will, time, okay, now I have painted on my brush. Now I'm painting. Now I'm done painting. Now I stop the timer. I like to look at, the entire process. Just like when you're doing estimates for work, it's fine to say, to realize that actually doing I'm a software developer, as at least the people who are watching this live knows. I can do an estimate on how long it actually takes me to do this particular bit, the implementation. But when we're doing estimates for clients, we naturally also need to do, there's project management, there's cleanup, there's documentation, there's all the stuff around it as well. Hey, Elena. We're just finishing up. Last finishing touches on the rocks. And just gently going, I'm just mixing on my wet palette. I'm just gently mixing more and more white into the gray to give this effect. And effectively, just finishing work, and it's been a busy day. I have said this before, and I will definitely say it again. I have a lot of respect for the work you do, both you and Bill. I think it is absolutely wonderful that people are nurses and actually go help other people. I know we all have our role to fill in society and so on, blah blah blah, the usual. But actually being out there doing all of this, that is, I think it's worth celebrating, whatever, cheering, whatever. Anyway, I will. I'm really tired today. That's one of the reasons I can't talk straight, is when I get tired. Since English is not my native language, the more tired I get, the less I can speak it, unfortunately. It's not like German, to be able to speak German, which I can't really, I just need to be drunk. That's usually the only way for me to be able to make any kind of sensible German sentences. Just get me so drunk that somehow my mind digs up some of the few things I learned way back in elementary school. And there we go. Now we also got a little bit of highlight on his leg. Don't get me started on German. You do palliative care from home, so it's not too bad. I have no idea what palliative care is, Elena, but I'm sure you will tell me in a little bit. I could look it up, but you know. Oh, chronic illnesses, people dying, right. That must be really hard, I guess. Keep them comfortable. Oh, so they're at home and you... Yeah. So instead of them being in a hospice, you'd be in that. Oh, so you're working with... So, okay, so administrative work. Some of it. But still... You are doing it, and that is commemorable. Whatever. I should probably stop talking and just be happy that in a little bit, tomorrow, the texture will have dried up and cracked. And once that is done, I will give it a round of black paint on the edge. Oh, you're remote controlling people. That is actually cool. So I think I have reached the point where I say that he is, well, almost done. I need to do the background black rim around the base, but other than that, here we go. This is Papa Loco. I hope he will be blowing up undead and monsters and resurrected gits. And again, we talked about it before you rejoined, Elena. We talked about how the base, just adding something into the base, really makes the miniatures pop. And it just does. I mean, it's probably the easiest thing I painted on the miniature was the rocks. But it just does something to have him standing not on a flat piece of plastic, but on something that looks so cool. So, in a way, we're closing in on the 2-hour mark. So I will just make you seasick again, so we can look at him. Yes, I will show the finished thing on Wednesday, which is the next stream. And until then, I will say thank you for tuning in. And thank you for your feedback. Thank you for chatting. It means a lot to me. I will leave you with this. What is that? That's a techno skull with some stuff going around it. Anyway, I should also again mention, of course, that the music used in this stream was, as always, Adrian von Ziegler. Was really cool in the sense that he's just really cool, I think, as a person. I've never met him, but he lets you use his music for free for YouTube streams, Twitch streams, non-commercial projects and so on. It's all there in his videos. Go look him up on YouTube or Spotify, wherever. For now, I will be signing off. Have a nice night, and sweet dreams.